What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Bankroll Blitz. It's me, your boy, Mr. Brad Thomas. We have Bobby at Prop Holiday, and we're joined by a special guest, Taylor Mathis, joining the show for this week to give our favorite NFL plays of the day. How are both of you guys doing?
Doing great.
I'm good. Looking forward to the weekend. When we record this, it's always a good move when we record Bankroll Blitz.
Yeah, always stoked to record the episode and always stoked to talk football. So I'm going to start the plays off with this week. I'm going to go into my first play of the weekend, and I'm going to travel to the Buffalo at Jets game, and I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills first half team total. I'm not too big into bounce backs unless it's a very, very elite team, and I still think that the Buffalo Bills are elite. So they have a good bounce back spot, and anybody who watched the last game, they got just stifled by the Jacksonville Jaguars, losing to the tune of 6-9. I really like the Bills here. Statistically, it's backed up too. The Bills are averaging 15 points per first half. In their last three is when they've been struggling most, but they've had reputable opponents. If you think about the Jacksonville Jaguars game, they might not be the best team on paper, but they have the pieces to kind of stop that lack of run game that the Bills have. Now we're going against a Jets team who is top in the league in most points allowed per first half at 18.9. And also in their last three, they're allowing 25.5 points per first half. I also really like this total too because it's kind of backing up the notion is it should be an over game. So the total has gone over in 9 of the 13 last road games the Bills have played. Another thing that, just like anybody says, any given Sunday, any team can lose. Well, the Buffalo Bills still average the most net yards per play. And so I think that, we do have that one strike through game, 2 strike through games every single season. I think that they're a good candidate for a bounce back. Let's think about that Steelers loss they had where the Steelers came back and they had all the momentum in the second half and just kind of shut down the Bills much like this. The very next game, they shut out a somewhat decent Miami defense. It was 35-0. So I'm liking Bills first half team total over 14.5, and we're getting very good odds on that. The implied odds are much higher than the probability of it hitting.
Nice, man. No, it's definitely good to start being to favor the elite teams. Obviously, what we saw out of the Buffalo Bills last week is not indicative of who they are as a team. I do expect a big bounce back from them. And the Jets, I guess over the last 2-3 weeks, we saw a glimmer of hope. With Mike White, with the Bengals win, we saw Thursday night. Mike White went out and scored. He went out and scored, I think, on the first or second drive. Then he gets hurt, and the third string goes in and still throws for 300 yards. So we don't really know what to expect from this Jets team. I do feel strongly about the Bills bouncing back. So for them to have 2 touchdowns and a field goal, perhaps 3 touchdowns in the first half, come out firing, I think it looks good.
Awesome. So I know that Taylor has another play for this game. Taylor, tell us what play you have.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm just going right along with what you guys said. I'm going to take the Bills against the spread at minus 11.5. I think this started out at almost 2 touchdowns. I think when the line opened, it was at 13. Now it's dropped down after the Jets have announced that Mike White will be starting. I don't understand the hype there. I think that's just New York and Jets fans getting overly excited because he had one great game. So I think that's a little ridiculous. I feel like we were just all saying the Bills have the perfect opportunity to bounce back against the Jets. You come out, you play horrible last week against the Jags. Josh Allen gets sacked 4 times, turns the ball over 3. Feel like this time he's got to come out and show that the Bills are an elite team, that they are one of the best teams in the AFC. So I like the Bills against the spread here because I feel like they're playing the Jets, who have the worst scoring defense in the league. And overall, they're allowing 43.3 points in their last 3 games too. So I think this is a good chance for the Bills to show them what they're made of.
Yeah, bounce back spots are always fun, especially when you have, Josh Allen's going to take that loss to heart, where he's not going to just sit back and be like, oh, well, on to the next day. No, he's going to come out firing. And I kind of feel bad for all Jets fans and for this weekend.
I agree. I'm like, the Jets fans, they just get one glimmer of hope and they get so excited about everything.
Yeah.
And you got to look at this Bills team. They got Tennessee making a statement last week against the Rams. Baltimore 6-2 with a Thursday night game coming up. So there's the Bills really need to reassert themselves and say, listen, no, this is our conference. So this is an opportunity. a 20-point win, a big win for this team, I think really stifles a couple of voices that we're hearing early.
Absolutely. Go ahead and give us your next play, Bobby.
Sure. So I am going over to the Detroit game.
Go to Tennessee.
Go to the Tennessee game. All right. My man, Ryan Tannehill, over 21.5 completions at -135, a little bit of chalk on it. So last week was really not indicative of this Titans team without Derrick Henry. They jumped out to an early lead against this Rams team. The Rams offense, they gave away 2 quick passes, 2 quick turnovers. Now they're at a 14-point deficit. The Rams offense kept making mistakes, which allowed the Titans offense to run the ball. I don't think they're going to see that as much success against the Saints this week. The Saints are giving up a 67% completion percentage to QBs over the last 3 games. That's ranked 23rd. And also Tannehill's really catching fire. You're seeing a lot of these quarterbacks. They're getting, middle of the season. They're finally getting comfortable. There hasn't been a preseason really. He's completing 70% of his passes over the last 3 games. Implied odds have him at 34 pass per attempts. That projects him at 24 completions. So I love the wiggle room with this. I'm projecting him at 24, though they're at 21.5 with a little bit of juice. You can play this up to 22.5. Maybe it comes down to -105. But I don't think this Titans team is going to be able to run the ball as much as it did last week against the Rams. I think it was like 22, 23 times. This Saints defense is really built to stop the run. So if Tennessee's going to have some success offensively, I think it's going to be on the back of Ryan Tannehill. So 21.5 completions at -135. I'll eat the juice and feel pretty good about this.
No, I like that there. When I was thinking about this game, I was thinking about, you have 3-headed monster, little less than a monster with Devonta Foreman, Jeremy McNichols, and Adrian Peterson. It's not going to survive against a Demario Davis or against a very stout run defense. Like this is a running back committee. I know it's their first game together, but they struggled to get 75 yards. If Tennessee is going to want to really challenge the AFC, you're going to have to see Tannehill continue to put the team on his shoulders. Last game was a bit of I guess one of those games where it doesn't matter as much if the quarterback's performance is not as high as it should be because Matt Stafford basically gave the Titans the game. But I think that we're going to see a lot more of Tannehill, and he's shown a lot of success all season with the ability to get passes and be accurate and make good decisions. Yeah. We're going to my favorite section, #Operation Fade. It has been ultimately successful, and it was almost destroyed last week when the Vikings decided to play an entire second half with 12 total yards of offense. However, the Vikings still covered the +6. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Operation Fade this week. So for those who are unfamiliar with Operation Fade, we look at the top 4 most heavily bet public NFL games, and we pick one and see why the public is going to be wrong. So I'm going to go through the top 4 really fast. The first highest at 82%, Los Angeles Rams -3.5. Second highest, Tampa Bay Bucks -10 at 79%. The Detroit Lions at number 3 +8.5, 68%. Kansas City Chiefs 67%, -2.5. The action I'm going to look at is I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers -8.5. So it makes total sense why people are backing Detroit here. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we know there's no question about their defense. It's all about their offense. Can their offense be successful enough to blow teams out? Can they blow out a Detroit? And I think the answer is yes. The Detroit Lions have struggled mightily against the run all year. And what better recipe for a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a banged up or bad, whatever you want to call them, banged up or bad offensive line, and they really don't get much of a push to play against a team who's bad against the run. This Detroit Lions team, I don't think has the ability to score enough points, only averaging 26 points per game on the road. Yeah, we know that the slew of injuries that the Steelers have at wide receiver with Claypool going down now, and then Juju on the IR. But let's not forget, against the Bears before the Bears' miraculous comeback, they were covering the spread 20-6. But what they were doing and how they were doing that was with their defense. I think this is going to be a defense that, picks off Jared Goff a few times. They get a lot of pressure, and then the Lions are going to have to battle from behind. And the run game for the Pittsburgh Steelers against a bad run defense like the Detroit Lions is going to allow the Pittsburgh Steelers to get chunk yards and continue to control the momentum throughout the entire game. One little fact I want to throw in there as well. Both teams have losing margin of victories, obviously, because they're not very good teams. But we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at an average margin of victory of -1, where the Detroit Lions are losing almost every game by a total of 14. So go ahead and give me this. I don't think that the public understands what they're doing, because the last time the public bet Detroit Lions, I think they were like a 2-point dog and they got blown out by like 20 something. So I'm going to go ahead and back the Pittsburgh Steelers for Operation Fade.
I like that pick too. When the Steelers just played the Bears on Monday night, I think I tweeted out that both of these offenses are the most boring thing I've ever seen. But then like the game went like a complete 180, and I was like, wow, this just got very close and really interesting. And I think I spoke too soon. Like you're saying, a lot of it had to do with the Steelers defense, but they were more interesting than I expected. So I like this pick.
Yeah, no, the margin for victory for the Steelers team is it's very, very thin, in the sense that so much has to go right. You have to play good defense. You have to be able to successfully get Najee Harris going. There is no deep ball anymore from Big Ben. I mean, Deontay Johnson, he eats up the short and intermediate routes. Najee Harris, they kind of took away more of his passing targets, but they're giving him 20 touches a game from the backfield. If they play good defense and they can run the ball with success, they can win games. If you cannot get the running game going with that Steelers offense, they're in trouble. So I do think this is a team that they are built for success, because Goff is we're finding out a lot about Jared Goff. Myself as a Rams fan, I've known a lot about Jared Goff for a while, but now the whole country's seeing who he is. So no, 8.5, even though it's a short week for Steelers, I think it's good.
I know you have a play from this game as well, don't you?
I do, and it actually fits in kind of the game script that you're talking about. It's TJ Hawkinson, over 51.5 receiving yards at -115. I was actually expecting this to be around 54, 55, so shocked to see it come out at 51.5. He's hit this in 2 of his last 3. He's seen 8 targets in 6 of 8 games this year. He was banged up kind of in the middle of the season. He gets a bye week to come back a little bit healthier. And we've actually seen tight ends have success against this Steelers defense over the last few weeks. Cole Kmet, David Njoku, Gerald Everett all exceeded their season averages versus the Steelers defense. I mean, between Swift and Hawkinson, they really are the 2 targets for Jared Goff. Obviously, it's the worst wide receiver core in the league. They just picked up Josh Reynolds off of waivers, so they're admitting they need wide receiver help. I expect a plethora of targets for TJ Hawkinson. And if they're playing from behind, as the 8.5 kind of implies, it really feasts for Hawkinson over the middle. So 51.5, again, just it seemed too low for me for a guy that's going to catch 5 or 6 balls. And if they're down 2 scores, expect that secondary of the Steelers to be playing prevent just for the hell of it. So he should eat up in the middle of the field. I think his longest reception is expected to be somewhere around 18 or 19 yards. That's the lineup. He hits that, and you're talking he only needs 3 or 4 targets to hit this. So TJ Hawkinson over 51.5 at -115. It fits everything I think we all see eye to eye on.
Yeah, no, I like that. Anytime you bring up TJ Hawkinson on this, anytime you bring up a tight end on this podcast, what I've also done is I've bet their touchdown prop. The last one you brought up was Mike Gesicki. I got like +280 odds on it. So I'm going to do it just because I like tailing you, and it brings a little bit more excitement to the game.
I like it too. And TJ's an Iowa guy, and I went to Iowa. So I always back the tight ends from Iowa.
It was nice. This week it was just meant to be. I didn't even know that. So to throw in a Hawkinson pick and look through.
Awesome. I'm going to go into my 2-team teaser for this week. For the teaser, I'm going to go ahead and tease the Cowboys, who have a home game against the Atlanta Falcons, and the Rams, who are traveling to San Francisco. It's going to bring the Cowboys to -3 and the Rams to +3. So once again, I'm falling into that backing the high spread for a big favorite in the Cowboys. But last week, it was very unfortunate for the Cowboys. That game got away from them early, getting stopped a couple of times on 4th and short, which kind of changed the momentum. And then there was a time when they got blocked. They blocked the punt, and then somehow the Broncos still recovered the football for a first down. There were just things in that game where momentum had every opportunity to switch, but it didn't. It was a down week for a very good offense, but I don't think it was so much as a terrible game for Dallas as it was for a very, very well scripted defense for the Broncos. And let's be honest, even the Broncos in a down year have a better defense than the Atlanta Falcons in a phenomenal year. This Falcons team is 28th in the league and allowing 27.5 points per game. They're coming off a big win against the Saints, but they honestly, they allowed 22 points in the fourth quarter against the Saints. The Saints almost came back, led by Trevor Siemian, who barely had a good game. I think this is an awesome spot for us to attack Dallas, who's still the top team against the spread. And then as for the Rams game, I'm not even talking about a bounce back spot because I knew that was going to be a tough game for the Rams against the Titans, regardless if Derrick Henry was playing or not. And let's make two things very clear. The 49ers are not the Titans and the Titans are not the 49ers. The Rams will do very well passing against this 49ers team, which, their defense was their bread and butter. But since they made that Super Bowl run, they've just consistently in the offseason gotten rid of pieces. Now they're like two good pieces on their defensive line, and they're trying to run everything through Bosa, and it's not as good as it should be. Also, you have Jimmy G, who, man, he was god-awful against the Cardinals. They lost the Cardinals 31-17. He gave the ball away 3 times. This is a 2-6 against a spread team who is playing against a very, very good Rams team, despite losing to the Titans. I'm going to back the Rams here. And I didn't talk about net yards per play for every pick, but I'm going to talk about it for this one as well, because the Rams are third in the league in net yards per play, and they're in the top 5 in most explosive pass yards per play. I think they're somewhere around 12.5%. That was just off the top of my head. So if it's like 12 or 14, don't shoot me. But whenever I have a team who's relying on their defense in the 49ers versus an explosive offense, I like to back the explosive offense, because the other side of the ball for the team who's relying on their defense is not going to be as strong. So you're telling me all I need to do is the Rams to lose to win or lose by less than 3 for the complete this teaser? I'm all for it. I know I dropped my teaser last week and the analysis wasn't as on spot, but I really like this spot for both of these teams.
And I guess as the resident Rams analyst, I have to jump in and say something about the Rams +3. McVay's record against Kyle Shanahan has been awful. They were buddies together in Washington. Kyle Shanahan has owned Sean McVay. And trust me, there's a good point to this. The reason that Jared Goff is no longer with this team is because of last year's loss to the San Francisco 49ers with Nick Mullins. When that ESPN article came out, McVay realized, I'm never going to be able to beat Shanahan if he can beat me with Nick Mullins and I have Jared Goff. He's been dying to show Shanahan what this offense is with Matt Stafford behind there. So yes, it is kind of a bounce back. It's also Von Miller's first start. He is expected to play this week. He didn't play last week, so you're going to see the defense a little bit more amped up. I'm probably going to take the Rams given the actual spread, but to get them +3, I do expect this to be definitely personal. Sean McVay is a guy. Last week is out the window. We're looking forward. These are divisional games in a tough division. These matter more than anything. And he definitely has something to show with Stafford back there. So love the +3.
No, I'm glad you said that, because there's 2 things that I circled in my notes. Number 1 was Von Miller. It's going to be a huge boost to that defense. And anytime you playing against a team who has Jared Goff and Jared Goff has a lot of pressure in his face, you're going to be subpar. I just love what Matt Stafford can do in the face of danger. And the Rams defense didn't play terrible. They actually played pretty well in that Titans game. I know, because I was sitting on the total and I was just begging for more points.
No, definitely.
Awesome. So, Taylor, I know you have a play from the Falcons game. Why don't you give that to us?
Yeah, so you're talking about the Cowboys and the Falcons, and I'm a gigantic Cowboys fan. So last week was really unfortunate, but I think you're right in the sense we had a couple of garbage time touchdowns at the end, but the Broncos defense, they just kept breaking down the pocket, and Dak had absolutely no time to throw, I felt like. So I like your Cowboys pick, but then I'm kind of hoping my pick is wrong right now. But I'm going to take Matt Ryan for over 24.5 completions. They're coming off a big win against the Saints. And right now his completion rate is at 69.4%, which is the highest it's been since 2018 for him. So I think that's something to look at. And he's gone over this total in 5 out of 9 games so far this season. Career-wise against the Cowboys, he's had at least 24 completions against them in 4 out of 6 games. So I like the over here on this one. I think it's a good way to go. I'm kind of hoping I'm wrong, though.
No, I want to jump in just real quick. So I don't want you to think that you're going to be wrong and my bet's still going to lose, because even in Matt Ryan's losses, I think he got blown out by Tampa Bay and he completed like almost 33 passes in that game. It's been pretty successful.
I'm just hoping that the Cowboys like blow them out, and it looks great.
Yeah.
No, Taylor, I love this play. You know, we talked before the podcast that I was considering throwing this into my lineup. One thing that we all forgot to mention, Matt Ryan is playing his old head coach, Dan Quinn, who's now the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. You know who he practiced against for the last 5 years in that defensive scheme? Against Dan Quinn every day. And now he's manning that Cowboys defense. He's going to know the soft spots. He's going to know where there's going to be an open man based on the coverages he's playing. So 24.5 for a guy that, you know, we talked about it with Tannehill before. These quarterbacks are getting in a rhythm. Their completion percentage is going through the roof. So 24.5, and I think it's at plus 100. I think this is great.
Yeah, no, when I was looking at the script of this game, I kind of assumed that this would be a game where the Falcons are going to be coming from behind, and they're pretty good from behind because Matt Ryan is very good at getting the ball out and getting it to his wide receiver. So I like that play a lot.
A weird thing about this Atlanta offense, since they lost Calvin Ridley, and then we can jump to the next thing.
Yeah,
they've taken away the deep ball with Calvin Ridley, but they've become more efficient. So you can see a stark difference between Matt Ryan's completion percentage with and without Calvin Ridley. Obviously, I hope he gets better and hope he gets back. He's a top 5 wide receiver in the league when healthy. But they have become far more efficient with Calvin Ridley. Obviously not as explosive, but more efficient out of Matt Ryan when he hasn't been on the field.
It's also easy when you have a guy coming out of the backfield and Patterson who's just getting like 5 receptions a game already. That's 5 that you need there. You have a play from this game, Bobby?
I actually do, and it wouldn't be a prop holiday lineup without someone going, what? Like, what? Who is this guy? So my normal zag of the week, it is a defensive single player stat. It is Deion Jones, the linebacker for the Falcons, over 3.5 assisted tackles. Not solo tackles, not tackles and assists, just assisted tackles. He's hit this in 4 straight. He's hit this in 6 of 8. He plays 100% of the defensive snaps, and he's on pace to have a career year by a wide margin. We just saw it. We mentioned it before. Dan Quinn is no longer in the picture. This guy, Deion Jones, is having a very, very good year. Sadly, the defense is not great, so he's not standing out. But his stats are going to be all-time for him. This Cowboys offense is averaging 29 rush per attempts a game. That's ranked top 5 in the league in attempts per game. So he's playing closer to the line of scrimmage. It's pretty much him jumping in and dogpiling and getting a couple assists. But he's done this in 4 straight. He's done it in 6 of 8, and he's not coming off the field. So Deion Jones over 3.5 assisted tackles. It's minus 115. It's over on DraftKings. It's the only place I saw it, but I feel very, very good about this line considering what we know.
Dude, that's so awesome that you find these obscure lines. Like I wouldn't even think to look for an assisted tackle line.
Last week was Young Hoku. This week it's Deion Jones. This is what I do in my spare time when I'm not doing my actual job. It's looking for obscure player props, and they've been somewhat successful. And you know what it is? The books don't heavily weigh these lines because everyone's hammering Matt Ryan and everyone's hammering the Cowboys. They're not expecting to take a large amount of money and a large amount of risk on Deion Jones. Hopefully when this come out, people can hammer it, and then it goes up to 4.5, and then don't touch it there, but 3.5 I like.
No, it reminds me of how I texted you and I was like, I have some auto bets now for field goal props because the markets aren't adjusting, right? It's just like these field goal props, these obscure lines, you're not getting a lot of line movement. So when you hit it, you're like, oh, awesome. I can even sit on it a little bit and wait a little later into the week.
If you have the time, the patience, and the inclination, you can find value out there. Just keep scrolling right at the top of these books.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to thank both you guys for a great episode of Bankroll Blitz. Taylor, thank you for joining the show. You can follow her on Twitter at tmath11792. You can follow myself at Mr. Brad Thomas. You can follow Bobby at Prop Holiday, and that's with 2 L's. And follow the podcast, Bankroll Blitz, at Bankroll Blitz. If you're following on YouTube, press the subscribe and like button. Thank you guys, and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Take care, guys.